Welcome to the WCC Weekly on the Gonzaga Nation Media Network. I'm your host, Dan Dickow. Took a couple weeks off with the WCC Weekly simply for the fact that a lot of times during that Christmas break, there are limited games for many teams. A lot of colleges were able to let their guys go home for an extended stretch. Gonzaga's players were home for about 3.5, 4 days, which is a lifetime when you think about it in the world of college basketball season. Pepperdine did play in Hawaii at a tournament over Christmas time, but most teams had a light schedule. Back at it after one weekend of games. Week one of the WCC provided some interesting movement. There's a couple teams that I think are a little disappointed with their efforts so far and their results. That would be USF sitting at 0-2, the Pilots sitting at 0-2. But on the flip side, you got to look at things as being a positive if you're a BYU Cougar fan. 2-0, they're now 12-5 on the season. They've kind of been under the radar, and rightfully so, because Gonzaga, obviously, with the schedule they played, the preseason ranking, you expect them to get a lot of recognition. St. Mary's with a tremendous early season start, and then they had a couple slip-ups. Houston, which you would expect, a top 3 type team. Then they did lose to New Mexico, the lone undefeated team still in the season. That was kind of a shocker. I think that made a lot of people kind of step back from St. Mary's, but now you're seeing just how good New Mexico is. So St. Mary's sitting at 2-0 as well. So let's just break down each team, kind of what they did over the past week, and then look forward to this week and what I think are a couple big games. So St. Mary's sitting at 2-0. They beat USD 85-58 at home, and then went on the road to Santa Clara and won 67-64. That one to me is kind of a statement win, at least early in the conference season. And it's hard to say a statement win, boom, week one. But the fact that Santa Clara was one of the first teams in the country to get into double-figure wins, they're sitting at 12 wins, and you take a look at that, and that was a chance for St. Mary's to say, no, hold up. We are still in that upper tier of the WCC. You still got a little bit of ways to go, Santa Clara. So that was a big win for St. Mary's, and that will be interesting because as we get deeper into WCC play, you'll start looking at, seeding for the tournament to get those buys in the early rounds of the WCC tournament and to start figuring out what potential matchups are, who owns the tiebreakers. So that was a big win there for St. Mary's. BYU, as mentioned, 2-0. They went to Pacific, had a 20-point win, and then they beat Portland 71-58 at home. Gonzaga sitting at 1-0. Them and Pepperdine, the only teams that only have played one game in week one, but Gonzaga won that game 111-88. Drew Timme did Drew Timme things. You can't say too much more. I mean, I think it was 35 points, 15 of 19 from the field, had his way with anything, everything, and anybody that the Pepperdine Waves threw at Drew Timme on the defensive end of the floor. So that was really good for Gonzaga. Santa Clara sitting at 1-1. Their win, as mentioned, or their loss, as mentioned, was the second game of the week against St. Mary's, but their win was another one that I think kind of falls in that category of St. Mary's beating Santa Clara, saying, hey, hold up, we're in control here. And Santa Clara did that to USF, beat the Dons 79-67, because I think there's so many teams that are in that 3 through 6 mix that you got to get some statement wins early so that you're not trying to play catch up and having to win games late with all the pressure on you. So Santa Clara with that win over USF. LMU at 1-1, that moves them up to a really good record of 11-5. I don't know the record off the top of my head, but I would be surprised if they don't catch last year's win total in the next week or two from a season ago. But LMU, they beat Portland 92-72, and then they went on the road and lost to Pacific 78-72. And that's one of the things that an LMU and a Santa Clara and a San Francisco teams that are kind of in that next mid-round range of teams. Portland was perceived to be there. You've got to sneak away these road wins against the perceived bottom of the league, and LMU not quite able to get that done. USD, they lost at St. Mary's. They had a 2-game road trip, so they lost at St. Mary's, which you would expect. But they bounced back and had what I think is the surprise win of the week in the WCC conference. And I'll talk about that more in a little bit, but they won 80-68 at the Hilltop. Pacific, the Tigers went 1-1. They lost to BYU, and then they beat LMU. And again, as mentioned, for a road team, you got to go in and win games on the road from teams below you in the standings. If you want to move up, you have to protect your home court. Gonzaga is the best historically at doing just that. They currently own the longest home winning streak in the country. I believe it sits now at 75 games. So you're not asking for teams to do that, but what you need to do is win 90% of your games at home and split on the road, go 500. If you do that, you're already approaching a 20-win season. So Pacific, they did that. Pepperdine, as mentioned, the one of one games last week, getting beat by a large amount at Gonzaga, but Maxwell Lewis played really well. He showed why he may be the best pro prospect in the league. He did struggle with some foul troubles at times. He played limited minutes because of that, but shows you just how talented he is to do that against a good Gonzaga team. And then the two teams sitting at the bottom of the league at 0-2. I know both of these teams are disappointed and frustrated with how the first week went. And that would be the Dons of San Francisco and the Pilots of Portland. The Dons, first off, lost at Santa Clara, 79-67, and then lost at home to USD, 80-68. The Pilots, led by Shante Leggins, they lost to LMU at home by 20. That is not a good result. And then they lost on the road to BYU, 71-58. But, I think the two early season games that were kind of tone setters, in my opinion, was the St. Mary's win over Santa Clara, and then the Santa Clara win over San Francisco. San Francisco in that game shot under 40% from the field. They were 7 of 26 from the 3-point line. And we know they want to shoot a lot of threes, but they also have to be good threes. Santa Clara does a terrific job of defending that 3-point line. And in that game, Santa Clara shot nearly 53% from the field. So it's hard to win when you're not making threes and the other team shoots over 50% from the field. The surprise win early in the season in week 1, it would be San Diego over USF, 80-68. Marcellus Earlington had 23 points. Jace Townsend had 22. And in that game, USF struggled again from beyond the 3-point line. That game, they were only 3 of 15 from the 3-point line. And it was not, and they were also able to, USD was 3 of 15 from the free throw line, and they were still able to come up with the win. They were bigger, they were more physical, they were tougher that game, and they got to the free throw line like crazy. 29 of 33 from the free throw line. I believe San Francisco only shot 17 free throws that day, so they really won the physical game. When you look at this upcoming week, a couple games that stick out at me. Obviously, this is a GU-based podcast throughout the rest of the week, but being a WCC weekly, you got a couple games to look at. I think are very important for the league. USF hosts University of Portland, and I think this is big because if whoever loses that game could quickly fall into the cellar and have a long climb up out of it if they do fall to 0-4. And the reason is because USF will play Gonzaga. They play USF plays Gonzaga on Thursday. UP plays at St. Mary's on Thursday. So this USF UP game on Saturday, I would imagine one of these teams is going to be 0-4. Both two teams that were, the first month of the season, there was high hopes there Portland especially having played really well in the PK 85, challenging North Carolina, challenging Michigan State, beating Villanova. And USF has been great really up until after they beat Arizona State. Ever since that win, they've kind of been struggling. And they beat an Arizona State, the team that was ranked at the time. But that's a big time game because they'll both have just came off of playing the top two teams. I would imagine they're going to lose both of those. That would set up a game where neither team wants to end up 0-4. The other one that I think is important is Santa Clara on Thursday, because it's a setup game before they play and host the Zags on Saturday. That's a road game at Pepperdine. So you could be 2-1 going into that game against Gonzaga while you're playing at home. And the reason it's so important is because it's a road game. Pepperdine has been good at home this year. They have struggled on the road. But if Santa Clara can go down into Malibu, Firestone Fieldhouse, come out with a win, I think you're going to see a lot of confidence, even more confidence building with that Bronco ball club. I mean, they're sitting at 13-4 right now. A lot of people thought with Jalen Williams heading off to the NBA that they were going to take a step back. And great job in the transfer portal, Brandon Posminski. Great job of developing some talent. And they're looking like Herb Sendek is doing a terrific job. They're looking like they're going to challenge for second and third in the league. And then as far as Gonzaga goes, big week. They're at San Francisco and at Santa Clara. So a Bay road trip with back-to-back games. USF one's important because at times Gonzaga struggled playing there. They're a team that really shoots a ton of threes. They're a team that's guard dominant with Khalil Shabazz as well as Tyrell Roberts. So you got to really do a good job defensively on the perimeter. And then that Santa Clara game, as mentioned, Santa Clara is playing good basketball right now. They've typically always had size that has bothered Gonzaga. They play a tough physical style, and they really defend well. So for the WCC Weekly on the Gonzaga Nation Media Network, thanks for joining. We'll catch you again real soon.